2014, Performance Poets of the Palm Beaches has been hosting poetry readings in Palm Beach County with featured poets followed by an open mic. Now, because of Zoom, we are able to expand our audience reach and invite poets from other regions. However, South Florida has a very robust poetry scene, as evidenced by our 2 featured readers today. And so we are committed to showcasing our talented local poets as well as poets from all over the country. We've already done our poetry announcements, and with that, we will start with Michael. And let me do the announcements. So November 14th, next month, Sunday, November 14th, Denise Duhamel and Dustin Brookshire will be reading. And in December, our own Christine Thurston, Chris, wave a hand, and Michael Hedich will be reading in December. So that's our plan for the next 2 months. And then a special announcement, careerist shill that we might be, in January, Judy and I have traditionally taken January to read our own work. And so we will be the features in January. So thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Okay, so let us begin. And we will start with our Michael. Michael Mackin O'Mara, queer, long-term POZ thriver, was born in Brooklyn, New York, and lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. They are managing editor and co-publisher of SoFlo Pojo, the South Florida Poetry Journal, and have been published in a number of online and print anthologies and journals. Their work can be found at, and I believe the link was just put into the chat, right? www.michaelmackinomara.com. And with that, Michael, would you?
I want to thank Susanna and Judy. Most of the people in this room know that this is the forum in which I read, and you all have let me read probably once a year for, I don't know, the last, I don't know how many years. So I'm very grateful. Next month is my 50th anniversary in writing. I started writing with some sort of serious intent in November 1971. And so we'll start with a poem from 1971. The shoreline and the sea. The Little Prince calls it taming. These daily handwritten lyrics under my door. Cyranos of blue ink on school-lined paper. 3 words in, I feel the vibrato as I touch them and smile that I have a musical twin. You hitchhike the turnpike to visit. Vinyl spins in the darkened den. I tremble at the plucked strings. We sit close. You whisper. How do you feel when a man says he loves you? All good Christians love one another, I reply. We sit closer still. I'm sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background. God bless them. Revival. It had cooled that late summer New England evening. The air shone clear. Sunset the colors of coming autumn, and stars no longer hid behind doldrums haze. It was our Protestant neighbors who'd invited us, and some mix of curiosity and propriety birthed a yes, or at least a grudging, why not? Catholic mom and offspring in the station wagon bound to a non-denominational tent revival with our summer backwood friends. bare bulbs strung like holiday lights, like a carnival, a country fair with singing, and all but us knew the words and knew when to shout, Amen, brother, and Hallelujah, from neat rows of white wooden folding chairs. Filled with a white shirted and bloused, pale dress of modesty inflamed to chaste fervor. I was of a preoccupied age, where I could only wonder whose hand among them I should hold, so occupied. I didn't notice as the preacher crescendoed, who among you is ready to change their life? It was our younger who was drawn, who stood before the platform with his hand upstretched. Me, take me, his quiet hand screamed, take me. And shrouded in a mother's laughter, we never stopped to wonder his reasons for leaving, his reaching toward. In your global warming dream, I'm taking out the trash or in the process of collecting trash to then take out, but the plastic bags have collected in the bottom of the receptacles and there's a few of them, and I distract myself with ruminations about dinosaurs since I'm told and fancifully believe the urban myth that that's what plastic bags were once. So there's a few dinosaurs in the bottom of the receptacle, all of which I shepherd into a larger dinosaur. And in one of these deflated balloons of what looks like a used condom of clear plastic reptiles are fish, lots of fish. Like when a fishing hole dries up and all the fish get concentrated and no, not dead fish, live fish, like there's an aquarium in a used condom of plastic bags. And I think, wow, I've got an aquarium, which is to say I have the contents in the aquarium without the actual aquarium in which to put said contents. Who the heck threw out all these fish? And the people that I didn't know were there pointed to you. So I sat down to ask, what up with the fish? And I looked down first, because that's how my sentences begin. And when I looked up, you aren't there. And the lady with her daughter, or the grown lady with the young lady in waiting, or whatever, she looked at me like, you're leaving, right? You and the fish. So I left because I'm compliant that way, and you were nowhere to be seen, but the fish were now a ball of motion in the teacup, like snakes coiling or waves churning, but all but water was gone and the plastic bag dinosaur gone, just a cup of fish. And I'm thinking, oh, look, Royal Doulton with the periwinkles, but really it's just an oversized off-white dinner-style mug and water, I'm thinking, but probably not tap water. I could throw them in the lake out back, but they'd be sushi before you could say snapping turtle, but okay. Lake water in a new receptacle, bathtub, until I can set up a proper aquarium. And that's pretty much how most of the critters in this house came to be in this house. Two dogs, a cat, a bird, a snake, way too many Paleozoics, and the homeless person on the couch, and now, well, fish. Giant Ants from Space, 1985. Just another B movie, pre-fame, pre to graves, with amnesia and a strange surgical scar. Has to stop giant insects made by space aliens with energy from USA bomb tests at Soledad Flats. Graves, armed only with his wits, a slide rule, and the love of a good woman, remembers and forgets he planned and ran the fission tests, shared data with the aliens, then blew them into a far-off sequel. The aliens, still Airbnb-ing in the desert, then try microbes instead. No more stock footage of A-bombs and B-52s or tarantulas the size of tilt-a-wheel rides. No more Peter Graves. He's off filming Airplane and Fantasy Island. At first, extras are dying and doctors the world over are mystified. Then crew technicians, grips and gaffers. Then movie stars from other genres in unrehearsed guest cameo death scenes. Until men in Tyvek suits and astronaut hats round up actors in Tyvek suits and astronaut hats. But by then it's too late. The microbes have taught themselves to travel over broadcast, TV, radio waves, cable. The aliens have replaced presidents and their wives with giant bugs because, well, there were still a lot of them left over. And a properly tailored tux or evening gown hides many a flaw. Not to mention the stasis chameleon projection field that allows them to look, well, just as you'd expect them to look. So the editor corrects the copy from "The First Lady dined on the President" to "with the President," because he never saw her mandibles snip off her husband's three-cornered praying mantis head mid his very last and most sincere offering of thoughts and prayers. Fortunately for the aliens, they had plenty more stand-ins left over. And at first, only historians of famous ticks would notice the difference. Meanwhile, the microbes studied every 1950s it came from outer space ripoff and concluded they should just kill everyone, both humans and aliens, and willed the necessary DNA mutations to make it so. Why they have spared me is a mystery, but my gut flora and fauna are all hijacked alien microbes. They send signals to my brain when they need me to blow up something or dust a few cabinet officials with DDT. Terraforming, it turns out, takes time. We'd like to think truth is a snowball gaining mass and velocity as it rolls downhill, but sometimes, these days, it's not. Stealth and grace not enough, never enough, not ever. And isn't my truth that I'm still alive? And isn't that what matters? Three dreams. One. Among concrete and soot-conquered trees outcrops an official building. And from behind that evening edifice, an official man, herringbone and 50. His lips frame black holes as he speaks at me, his tongueless monologue punctuated with inept smiles. I cross the street from him and again start home. It's October. A low moon ghosting through bare trees shadows my walk past dusk after dusk-faced house. Wind-rallied leaves scratched by my feet and clutched the cold joints of dormant hedge. Through a landscape shrinking from a blackening sky, the man stalks me. The moon stalks us both. I corner, and he's younger. In the edge of my eye, he sheds more than half his years. Crossing toward the park, his age, his clothing gone. Silver white, he dances, moonlight. Three dreams, three. At a house as old as memory, he's outside, padding among the lilacs and namesake lilies. He takes each room I would deny him, sniffing and swatting at me as I hide under Grandpa's bed. The room exhales his smell. Bed springs above me vibrate to the strange purr. I dive out the window into another room. Dropping the ladder behind me, I'm in the attic of this too small house. He does not pause or circle, but springs, and I am his. The Lost Canoe for Douglas Austin Kendall, 1957, 1993. I can't remember how or when we met. I know it was in college, and I remember you in a couple of decades in at least 3 or 4 towns. We were the weed-smoking, shroom-brewing, long hairs canoeing, the Hillsborough, Ochlockonee, and Loxahatchee, and slam-dancing clubs that were desperately chasing anarchy. You mainlined Richard Hell and polystyrene and giant ants from space, and Eno, and found the too much for my mirror girl who dubbed you Douglet, and preferred her brew poured over our heads to drinking it. We came from planet Claire while we cruised the hills of Tally, a murder of us in your dad's discarded Newport coupe. In time, we lost both Sly and Anka. The only time I saw you cry. And donned the 3-button suit of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You led me by the rope around my throat back from the unnatural disasters of my quaking mind. The night you asked, what happens when we die? That's easy, I said. The universe cradles our atoms forever, apologizing for the rippling cause and effect we'll never comprehend. You leave me the cold sun's pink breath on the still water, gray that steeps as deeply into river as into sky. Author's note. When someone asks, what happens when we die? Shut up and hold them. Love's retirement, or Pippa's confession. Still morning light delights as it slathers blinds with tossed off sun, whitens golden chairs, strong arm bones, slats the floor like Jacob's ladder, but steps and stairs, tire, legs lost to a 3-month ague. If we're dancing to heaven, It's a slow dance now. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. One more morning to eavesdrop on whispering leaves. Psst, psst. They never spill the tea. Twittering songbirds, crows that hold grudges as if thoughts that hail or pass like clouds that passed like goose down on a river, late and harried, with someplace to go. The squirrel scolds, the lapdog stares at a not for long empty lap. God's in his heaven, yada yada. Undone among cowls and feet and plots villainous, which is to say the usual about sausage and buttered bread. One more night to pretend moon and stars, pretend make-a-wish shooting meteor showers, phantom cries of wait, wait, wait. Pretend planetary hookup omens. Do you remember the night? A few of us riding our bikes through God-forsaken streets, through whipped cream fog that smeared the street lamps. Our brief wolf pack howl, belonging, wrapped in a bare hug of it. To be of an age where it seems unseemly to talk of loneliness, childhood sweethearts, long gone, convenient spouses and inconvenient, long gone. Midlife crises, yes, also gone. Now it's cataracts bestowing halos on street lamps, and only the dog will cuddle, and only for so long. And only the night breeze tries to cop a squeeze and ruffle my hair. It's 1 or 2 ages of man since that oxytocin your fingers playing my hair overdose. And even though equations for thermal winds are known, I welcome the attention or illusion. The way a puppy welcomes a baby bottle wrapped in terry cloth and sighs in puppy talk, "Mama." Hardly is that word out before a landslide, before mouthfuls, facefuls, earfuls, yearfuls of figurative dirt beneath these nails. Seriously, you don't remember? I don't know what to do with what I do remember. Never mind what I don't. A candle lit in memory burns the night, burns this contented cat's silence, and you, my friend, the last I'll ever love like that. We're done with the trauma, drama, striptease. Let us leave that with our clothes at the door. I'm not at all surprised that you are nothing but light. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with morning light and evening breeze and a puppy that smiles whenever she sees me. Yes, folks will say she'd likely smile at whomever feeds her, but it'll do. It's enough. 1 bark for feed me, 2 for out, 3 for pet me, damn it. Or is that throw the damn ball? It's enough. I hate poems about poems, so of course I had to write one. A poem is an exorcism from the inside out. A death threat, an oracle, a billboard of fresh air, news from the front. A poem is a writ of habeas corpus, a bit of flotsam from the wreckage of your soul. A letter home, returned to sender. A poem says, ah, shucks my, it's just a scratch. A poem says, apocalypse now, mother. A poem is a ransom note, a recipe, a lost balloon, a desperate cry, a warning, a buoy, a mile marker, smoke, lots of smoke. A shovel, wings, an aqualung, a space capsule, a time capsule, a capsule of you'll never take me alive, cyanide, another hole in the ground. A poem is a mythical beast and a slayer of beasts. A poem is what's left. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael. The chat is open, so certainly anything you would like to say to Michael about his powerful and evocative, as always, poems. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for reading for us. Okay, so we'll take just a little bit of time so that you can do that in the chat box. All right, great. Okay, so let me introduce our next featured reader. NICOLE TALLMAN is a professional writer and poet. Born and raised in Michigan, she lives in Miami, serves as the poetry ambassador for Miami-Dade County, an associate editor for South Florida Poetry Journal, and interviews editor for the Blue Mountain Review. And I'll remind you that there's a link to the Blue Mountain Review with Lenny and Michael being interviewed about South Florida Poetry Journal. Her debut chapbook, Something Kindred, is forthcoming from the Southern Collective Experience, SCE, Press. Find her on Instagram and Twitter, at so it's N.A. Tallman, and on her website, which is also in the chat box. Sorry about that, Nicole. So with that, Nicole, if you would, please.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Thank you. And thank you all for spending some time with me on a Sunday. I always say that because I know we have a lot going on always. So I want to thank you for being here today. Maureen, thank you. You're such a kind supporter of me always. Thank you for being here. And Judy and Susanna, thank you for inviting me. This is the first time I've read for the Performance Poets of the Palm Beaches, and I'm often just so honored that people ask me to read because I'm a relatively new poet in terms of publishing. And to follow Michael, my goodness, I'm intimidated to say the least, but I'm going to do my best. That was so beautiful, Michael. Seriously, and we are doing this death, dark, gay religion poem thing today, I think, because I got a set for you. I decided I'm going to read mostly new poems to you all today. I don't really feel like reading from Something Kindred. I don't know if that happens to people, but I feel like I wrote that so long ago. I don't want to read from it right now. I'm sorry. I'll probably read one poem, but most of the poems that I chose today, they're a little dark in tone. It's kind of where I'm feeling lately. I tend to get a little depressed this time of year. As was mentioned in my bio, I'm from Michigan, and I miss the fall, and I try to channel that in ways that I can. And one of them is really embracing Halloween, which I absolutely love and adore. And so I'm going to read some darker poems, but it's also Libra season, so I'm going to try to balance it out with some lighter poems towards the end. So I leave you on a happy note, so you're not too down in the dumps by the time I finish. And for those of you who've heard me read before, I think you know that I like to start with a poem from someone else. And I'm a little bit of an obsessive reader. I right now I am just obsessed with Alex Dimitrov, and I turn time and time again to Love and Other Poems. I really, really love this book by Copper Canyon Press. And I've been writing a lot of poems lately that respond, I think, to his work. You know, I used to write poems in response to a lot of dead poets. I'm also obsessed with Sylvia Plath and Anne Sexton, but they didn't really answer me back, you know, because they're dead. So I tried to write poems in response to someone who's still alive to see how that works for me. And I kind of like how this is going. So the poem I want to read to you first, this is one of Alex's poems. It's called Poem for the Reader. It's kind of short. And then I'll read you the poem that I wrote in response to that poem after that. So this is Poem for the Reader. Since we'll likely never be together anywhere but here, what season are you most alive in? Is the morning blue or green? How would you use freedom? What part of your body do you trust the least? Permanent rain or never-ending snow? When are your most difficult hours? Would you want to know who you were before this? Why or why not? And now that there's fire, the bridge or the river, more money or love? Do you sometimes avoid happiness? If asked, would you return to Earth or anywhere else? So the poem that I wrote in response to that poem is called Poem for the Dead. And this is, you know, I've been doing a lot of anthology work lately. This poem is actually going to be part of an anthology forthcoming, a Dream and Nightmare book that's edited by Ora Martin, the poet. This is Poem for the Dead. Since we'll likely never be together again, anywhere but here, what season were you most alive in? Is there morning or color where you are? Do you have freedom? If so, how are you using it? Would you rather be a bird or an angel? Permanent day or never-ending night? If there are hours, when are your most difficult? Do you know who you were before this? Why or why not? And now that there's fire, are you in heaven or hell? More time or less? Do you still feel happiness? Would you return to Earth, this dream, or anywhere else? The next poem that I'm going to read is one that's part of my chat book, and it's I'm reading it because it's one of my favorites, and it's going to be actually a featured poem in the New Year's Eve issue of Sledgehammer Lit, which is kind of a funny way to end a year, but this is called I'm Finding Your Ashes in My Suitcase. I think you would laugh if I told you your urn exploded somewhere during my flight back to Miami. And when I got home, I found you spilled your ashes all over the inside of my luggage. Actually, it was your luggage, the Liz Claiborne zebra print carry-on with the dragon fruit interior. The flight was oversold, so I was forced to check you in your luggage. What kind of monster makes a grieving daughter check her own mother? This next poem, I think Lenny's probably going to recognize this one because I workshopped it with him, and if Carrie's still on, she may as well, and Joanne too. This one was actually picked up by Alpsis Pages. It's part of a womanhood collective that's edited by Kayla King. It'll be forthcoming in December. This is another one of these magic spell type poems I've been dabbling in lately. This one is called White Spell. I'm that cat in Constantine, but I'm also human and I'm talking, casting a love spell with broken violins, crystal, smoke, stone. I'm a mystic, a sage, a good witch, a lucky 13 wearing a white gown. Isn't a wish a spell? I say, lift the world's sadness. I chant Om Mani Padme Hum. Isn't a prayer a kind of magic? Isn't silence? Isn't the moon? This next poem is one of the Ouija board poems that I've been writing lately. There's a publication, I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. I think it's relatively new. It's called the Hallowzine, and they write Halloween inspired poems each year. I think they may be open still, or they might be closing today. I don't know. They're getting pretty close to the end, but this poem is going to be featured in that publication, and it's called Poem with Ouija Board. I actually haven't read this one out loud except to my cat, so I don't know how this is going to go, because it's kind of one of these that looks really good on paper, but I don't know how it's going to be out loud, but I'm going to try it because I like it. So this is Poem with Ouija Board. Who are you? One from your past. What is your name? Too dark. Are you a good spirit? No. Do you want to harm me? No. What do you want me to know? Unclear. What is my purpose in this life? Future hazy. Are you okay? No. Can I help? No. Can I speak to Sylvia Plath? No. Can I speak to my mother? Yes. How do I talk to her? Ask. When will I die? Summer. How will I die? Leave me now. This is another one of my Ouija board poems, which I have to just admit to you kind of creep me out in a lot of ways. This one is forthcoming in a publication called Warning Lines, in issue number 3, which is called Fallen Cherub. The name of the issue, not the poem. The poem is called Book of the Dead. Too Dark says, I can speak to the dead if I ask. I ask if he's a good spirit or bad. He says he's bad. I once heard the loud flutter of black wings, opened my eyes and saw you floating above my bed. In stage 1 of the Bardo passage, lamas attending to the deceased urge them to accept that they are dead. Every time the dead appear without me calling, I say, you are dead, you are dead, you are dead. So this next poem is the last Ouija board poem that I'll read for you. And this one's forthcoming in an anthology called The Hungry Ghost Project. And the name of this poem is Latin. It's called Mors te nunquam sistat, which roughly translates to death never stops you, or may death never stop you, depending on how you're saying it. So there are three sounds I can't forget. Death rattle, last breath, the zap of energy from one plane to the next. I would like to write a poem in which you appear, and then I would like to ask you several questions. Where did you go after your heart stopped at 4:44 p.m.? Did you finally get your wings? Are you an angel, a bird, another creature I have yet to see? Would you come back if you could? Why haven't you? Why don't you answer when I call your name? Mother, where have you gone? Too Dark says I can speak to you if I ask. Mother, can you hear me? Mors te nunquam sistat. 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 This next poem is forthcoming in an anthology. I don't know how many of you have seen Midnight Mass on Netflix. It's kind of cool if you haven't checked it out. Kind of creepy, so if you are skittish or easily frightened, might not want to watch it too late at night. But there are a couple of poets, Rachel Crosby, Charlie Danelio, and Talia Mackin, and they have partnered together to put this anthology together. And I wrote this poem for that. It's called Father Paul. Father Paul, I grew up without a church, borrowed a pew at a friend's in the summer, drank the cloying fruit punch they served out of small paper cups, ate their off-brand cookies. It was often dark and cool, the only light coming through the stained glass windows, light fractured like a prism. I stood at the feet of the crucified Jesus, felt the puncture of nails and thorns, put the dollar my mother gave me in the gold offering bowl. Everyone always seemed sad and solemn. I don't remember joy but restraint, the smell of wax and bleach, the organ droning on, the few people who weren't tone deaf leading the chorus, my mind always wandering somewhere, anywhere but there, to running outside in the grass, to playing monkey in the middle, to coloring, to Lazarus, to Gabriel, to Mary, to blood, to sin and suffering, to the priest in his simple robes, to the little green Bible he gave me, to his unwavering belief that he could actually save me, to the girls I wanted to hug a little too long. This next one is another forthcoming in an anthology. This is, I wrote this one for an anthology called Hell is Real. It's a Midwest Gothic anthology that's edited by a gentleman named Jack Hartley. This is called Dying Young. And, you know, I probably should have given you guys some content warnings, or maybe I shouldn't have, I don't know. But this one's got some alcohol, gore, and death in it. So just fair warning here to those who might be sensitive to those topics. I'm sorry I didn't do that earlier. I just realized it took you down a really dark path, and sorry about that. Anyway, so this is Dying Young. I grew up in the middle of a cornfield, went to college in the middle of a cornfield. The smell of manure would wake me some mornings. I can remember my grandfather tossing me like a sack of old potatoes into the corn grinder for fun. I remember thinking I would lose a limb or two before being ground to cornmeal. I remember cleaning the horse stables, gagging in the hay. I remember picking sweet and sour berries, thorns tearing at my tender fingers, and later picking seeds out of my teeth after eating too many blackberries. The sun so hot shining down. I can still smell the dust and dirt, the change in the air and the rain from summer to fall. I remember fall in the haunted cornfield, flannel, black nails, ghost stories, reapers, mazes, hunts for crop circles and witches, reading a book of shadows, playing light as a feather, stiff as a board, us heathens, summoning Candyman and Bloody Mary, in and out of mirrors, taking swigs from a shared bottle of Boone's Farm, a fire, always a big fire to soften the October blow, someone telling a story of someone who died young among the corn. Who told the story and who died young? That I can't remember. So after all that dark, I'm gonna go a little light. I'm gonna end on light. I got two more poems for you. This next one is an epistolary poem, and this is forthcoming in the It Came From Beneath the Ink anthology. It's a tribute to R.L. Stine that's edited by Lanny Stable. And sorry. And this one's actually available for pre-order now if anybody's interested through ELJ editions. But I don't know if a lot of you know this or not, but or if you remember the Garbage Pail Kids. I'm a kid, an 80s kid, so I grew up with them, and I still have. I don't know if you can see this, but this is my Nutty Nicole I brought this with me from Michigan along with my others. It's really, really, old, relatively speaking. And R.L. Stine wrote this book, Welcome to Smellville. And I love it because I love the Garbage Pail Kids. So I wrote this epistolary poem to the Topps Company, which invented Garbage Pail Kids. And this is called Yours Truly, Nutty Nicole. Dear Topps Company, I would like you to know that I grew into my Garbage Pail Kid's name, and that in case of a fire, my Garbage Pail Kids collection is one of the few things I plan to take with me. And when I evacuated for Hurricane Irma, I grabbed 6 material possessions: my purse, my photo album, my first teddy bear, a safe with important documents, my deceased mother's jewelry, and my collection of Garbage Pail Kids cards. I would like R.L. Stine, AKA R.L. Slime, to know that I'm no middle grader, but I got goosebumps when I cracked open Welcome to Smellville. It's now on my poetry shelf. It's now on my bookshelf, dispelled prominently among my not so juvenile and not so gross poetry books. I guess you could say I'm still an 80s kid and I'm nostalgic for the 80s. I would also like you to know that I own the Garbage Pail Kids movie and the cartoon series, and that at the height of the pandemic, I tried to dig them out of storage to rewatch them. They were under too many heavy boxes to get to, and I was tired, so I settled for my new Garbage Pail Kids book and stickers. It was good to see my old friends, Atom Bomb, Babbling Brooke, Brainy Janie, Cranky Frankie, Handy Sandy, Junk Food John, Luke Puke, Nervous Rex, Rob Slob, and Wacky Jackie. Thank you for the trip down memory lane and for some new Garbage Pail Kids goods to look forward to. Yours truly, Nutty Nicole. Thank you. So this is my last poem. This one is forthcoming in Marvelous Verses. It's an anthology that is edited by a friend of mine, Jared Beloff, and it's still open for subs. So if any of you have a Marvel-inspired poem in you and you'd like to submit it, this is affiliated with Daily Drunk Magazine. You can look up Jared Beloff online. His handle on Twitter is read underscore instead. And he's still accepting poems. So if you feel the urge to do so, write one up and submit it to him. It was a lot of fun. So I decided to write a love poem for Firestar. I have to tell you, Firestar is my favorite Marvel character. And yeah, so I wanted to memorialize that love for Firestar. So here we go. Love poem for Firestar. Name a heroine hotter than Firestar. I don't think you can. I've been crushing on her since she debuted in 1981. Yes, I was only 5, but I knew fire then. I was glued to the TV. I had a thing for redheads, and she is magma. She is lava. No, she's the whole damn volcano. With a single glance, she set me on fire. That red hair against yellow costume fire. She's a red comet soaring high above the moon. She's radioactive. She's microwave radiation manipulation. She's full on flight. She's energy, wavelength disruption. She's the zap that kills the microwave in the night. She's a trained assassin. She's loyal. She's single. She's probably still in love with Iceman. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you, Nicole. How fun and refreshing your poems are. I appreciate you coming and reading with us. So now's the time, folks. The chat is open. So if you want to send Nicole some comments,